Who are the X-Men? Some would say that it's a team of unique individuals who are all misunderstood, who fight against oppression and social injustice. Others would say that it's a superhero team that fights against evil. Some would say that's the story of two characters, Magneto and Professor X, who have differing views on the same outcome, which is the best for mutant kind. If this is your first time here, welcome to Food for Plot, where we eat, sleep, and breathe story, no matter what media it's in. Where we make videos about how story works in all media and how to make your stories better. Subscribe and hit that bell so you don't miss any of our new videos. I think you're kind of getting my point. X-Men is not just a franchise. It's not just a regular comic book film. I'd argue that it has its own universe by itself. Putting it in the MCU with the Avengers, then Doctor Strange and the Guardians of the Galaxy.
What a bunch of a-holes.
Isn't a bad thing at all. In fact, it's the best thing in the world. We've been waiting for this forever. However, I do think that the way that we go about this, because we are now past the 1999 X-Men film, we can probably do better. You see, the way the Fox movies handled the X-Men as a franchise was essentially stripping it down of all the things that made it unique. This includes the colorful costumes that the 90s show showcased. This also implies that all the characters are kind of bland. They don't actually come from many different places. They are all pretty much the same. American, dull, except for that one time that Halle Berry tried for about one movie.
At least I've chosen a side.
It's also kind of funny because when people think about the X-Men, I don't think they think of the comics. In fact, I'm pretty sure that nobody thinks of the comics. When you think of the X-Men, the thing that comes into your mind is probably this theme song. What if I told you that this X-Men isn't the X-Men from the comics? However, I think it's probably the best version of the X-Men. And because of this, I don't think that the X-Men should be made as a movie. In fact, X-Men as a narrative is kind of messy, because when you think about the way that X-Men is, it's multiple characters. The team alone, let's just go to the 90s X-Men version. X-Men the cartoon, the team includes Cyclops, Wolverine, Rogue, Storm, Beast, Gambit, Jubilee, Jean Grey, and Professor X, Colossus, Nightcrawler, Forge, Banshee, Iceman, Archangel, Psylocke, and Bishop, and there are tons more just sitting around being in there. And what's even crazier is that all these characters actually had full storylines. This is something that's sort of unprecedented. This show doesn't have a central bad guy. It has many villains that are villains to the certain characters because the way that the show operates is that the character comes first. Therefore, Wolverine will have a different villain than Nightcrawler per se, or Rogue will have a different villain than Storm. I'd argue that in the 90s X-Men cartoon, the biggest villain is actually themselves and their own personal baggage. But think about a movie, right? A movie is only 2 hours long. The amount of characters the series gives full storylines to is kind of ridiculous. Over the course of 5 seasons, almost every character is explored, and explored satisfyingly. Pretty sure you can't do this in a film. It wouldn't work, because X-Men is not a superhero film. It's a soap opera, full of melodrama, romance, and ridiculous storylines, with too many characters, too many dimensions, too many characters coming back from nowhere, people coming back from the dead. It literally is a giant soap opera, fixed with its own love triangle and everything. And I think that's the point. There is no villain of the X-Men. The world is the X-Men's villain. They fight against oppression. They fight for the right to be different. You can't explore all of these things in a movie, which is why the Fox X-Men movies kind of made the entire franchise center around Wolverine, which Hugh Jackman played marvelously. However, now that we're past the early 2000s, maybe we can actually have a full-fledged series about the X-Men. Think about it for a second. We could go down the rabbit hole of Rogue and Mystique's relationship. We could talk about Storm's past, her with the Shadow King. We could talk about Colossus in Russia. We could talk about Iceman's identity crisis and him being queer. We could talk about Nightcrawler being German Catholic and being oppressed for this, and him in the circus. We could do every single one of these storylines, and it wouldn't even distract from the main goal. Because the goal of the X-Men is a fight that will never be won, which is a parallel to real life on how it's not just a fight to fight one villain of bigotry. We have to keep fighting these things until the world is at least fair for everyone.
But that's just food for plot. If you learned something in this video, click the like button and subscribe, and hit the bell so you don't miss another video. Every like goes to feeding the penguin. So until next time, keep writing.